Joining SQM Media was a dream at first. Everything I had done in animation was to lead up in hopes of joining it one day. A 10 million subscriber YouTube channel where stories could be shared through animations. It sounded amazing, but I ended up quitting. This video is split up into multiple parts. If you wish to watch certain segments, timestamps are available. If you wish to skip the background, go ahead. It's probably around 2015 or 2016. I'm playing console Minecraft on an Xbox with my friend, something that we used to do almost every day at his house. When we weren't playing Minecraft, we were making stories with LEGO minifigures, or watching YouTube like popular MMOs, Stampede, NTDM, something like that. But one day, my friend Goro wanted to show me something new. He showed me a Scours animation from a channel known as Black Plasma Studios, or BPS for short. And before we knew it, over the next few years, we started watching other animations by them, like Blocking Dead, Survival Games, Scours Mega. This channel was stacked with animations, and we were keeping up with every single one of them, eager to see the world, action, and emotional scenes. That's when BPS started uploading tutorial videos. Now, I didn't really think I had potential to follow these. It seemed like a lot of work to create something imaginative and beautiful like that I had seen on the channel. But I decided to follow them anyway, on a path to animate the game I loved, Minecraft. So downloading Blender, the animation software, and listening to the tutorials by BPS was entering a new domain. And I failed. I had no idea what I was doing. I ran into some sort of rig problem which didn't allow me to move or give life to my character. So instead of trying to find a solution, I thought this would be one of the many hurdles in Blender to overcome. So I discovered a new way to animate Minimator. Now, Minimator isn't like Blender. This software is for Minecraft animations only. I was able to quickly learn and pick up some basics to animate, and I started making a story which I called the Mystic series around 2018. I was a huge fan of Rainimator and his content, and the Minimator animations I made closely resembled his videos. And yes, since I was a BPS fan, I obviously had to include them in my animation, right? After getting a bit of experience in Minimator, I decided to give another shot at Blender. And thankfully enough, I was able to overcome the rig issue I had earlier and was able to follow the tutorials. Instead of having my character farm carrots like the tutorial had, I for some reason just had diamond blocks sitting on the grass. No idea why, but I guess I just didn't want to copy the tutorial's exact shadow. From there, Blender became my everyday go-to. Every time I sat in front of my computer, I would instantly open Blender and start working, and it was pretty fun. After doing a few more practice animations, I decided to continue the Mystic series, with episode 4 being in Blender. I based it around Freddy Sal's Me Against the World, where my character and his friend would fight against Null. Nothing too great, obviously. I don't even remember it much aside from this one screenshot I found, but it was an experience, something I was sure I wanted to keep doing. And from there I went. I remember continuing Mystic series for a few more episodes, but never really finished it. The animation that changed my life. Songs of War by BPS was revolutionary, and I would even say revolutionary in the history of Minecraft. I had never seen anything like it, and if I didn't love BPS before, which I clearly did, I was all over it now. The entirety of Season 1 was beautiful. The fights, world building, characters, emotion, music, everything about Songs of War was near perfect. I was so inspired by everything that Songs of War had achieved in late 2019 and early 2020. And then it came crashing down, because in April or May of 2020, the news that Season 2 and 3 were cancelled shook the entire community, because we wanted to see more, we wanted to see the story finish. But to this day, we have not. Songs of War had died, and everyone was left in shambles. However, news got out that the community would be receiving full assets, so we can continue the story ourselves. This was where things changed. This was the moment that people realized Songs of War may now be in the community's hands. It started with me getting a recommended video from Thomas, one of the directors at BPS, who made a dialogue edit between the Death Singer and Sen's final scene. Now, I had no clue of the context behind this. I hadn't read the script and found the fact that Sen even knows the Death Singer and that the Death Singer is dying mind-blowing. That dialogue edit gave me an idea. I wasn't working on any Blender project, apart from maybe a Mystic Series episode, but this was way more important. So I created my first fan animation of Songs of War, The Death Singer's Death, using the audio from Thomas's edit. Like I said, I hadn't read the script yet, so I got a lot of things wrong, such as the location and how he died. But what I felt was something much more, something that I had done through inspiration from BPS. Although there was a huge room for improvement, the comments weren't bad, they were acceptable. People saying they were glad to see the final scene in motion and hoping to see more. I was taken aback. I think that was the first day I crossed 100 views or such, and I was surprised. Because of the community wanting more and me hoping to keep the flame alive of the story, I decided to continue creating Songs of War shorts. I started growing a foundation of people who looked forward to Songs of War fan-made content on the channel. Then I got a request to make a full episode of Season 2. At first I was hesitant. I already knew my quality was not up to the standards of BPS. I wasn't even close. I didn't want to ruin the story because of poor animation. So I did an animation regarding Dream SMP, but something didn't really settle with me. I didn't have the same passion I did with Songs of War. And there were enough comments telling me, pushing me to a path of ambition, that I had to accept. And there was where I started my first ever full episode of Songs of War, Season 2, Episode 1. Around this time, I got help from other people who were as passionate about Songs of War as I was. King Dairon was one such person who was with me every step of the way. He was a huge help in lighting, VFX, rendering, something I basically had zero experience in during my animation journey so far. The episode was a huge success, so we pressed on, putting out episode 2 and 3 of season 2. With the directing, gathering voice actors, getting help from Dairon, and others like Danger Zone, I was pretty satisfied. But then reality hit. While things were pretty positive on the YouTube side, Discord was another thing. Groups like the Knights of Ardonia, Helios, Blitzbot, Raj, and others rose up to make fan-made animations of Songs of War to continue its legacy. And let's just say the members following the productions were not very happy with me. A lot of backlash started to occur, and hate, toxicity, and people loathing my channel's work just sprang out, and I didn't know where to go from there. I was severely demotivated by the time I finished episode 3, and realized maybe they were right. My quality hadn't improved in the span of 3 episodes. I was seen as this fast animator who would rapidly put quantity before quality. I mean, I couldn't really blame them. I realized that Dairon was doing most of the lifting to make the episodes visually pleasing, while my animation was basically just layout. I remember putting a community post out that I would not continue to create full episodes of Songs of War afterwards because of all the disapproval from others. So I was just kind of thrown in a place I didn't really like. And there I thought my passion for Songs of War and Minecraft was just a waste of time. It's the start of 2021, and leaving animation for so long really just felt off. I started thinking about my decisions, and I realized that the hate couldn't make me stop. It was my choice whether or not to make Songs of War fan-made animations. What would I be if I set an example of giving into hatred? So I set out to complete the rest of the Songs of War episodes. A journey of self-improvement, considering feedback and constructive criticism to transform and evolve my animation step by step. And on June 17th, 2022, I finished Season 2 of Songs of War, my largest accomplishment thus far. I learned that you can't let people define you. The only limit on yourself is yourself. I was able to work on some of Season 3 before having the honor of working with Squared Media. After my application was finished, I applied to be a contract animator and was able to work up to being a trial director at Squared Media. I met a lot of great people, which I wouldn't have without all of you. But that isn't the end. I won't be addressing specific director names because I don't have their permission. This is for information only. I entered the trial director position on March 23rd, 2024, and posted my first story draft about a command block that corrupted a father and their family breaks apart. I had a scene where the father kills the mother and realizes his mistakes. Then he sacrifices himself to save his daughter. However, that was deemed as too dark to put on the channel, which I understood, but Honestly, I was kind of surprised because it was similar to Death to the Rest of Tidesinger, which also would have been posted if Songs of War continued. I got feedback on the 25th and posted a new draft right after on the 26th. However, I got no feedback till the 20th of the following month, April. This marks the first issue with Scrivenia, and that's its system because, well, there is no system. When I joined, I honestly expected to see documents on how meetings got conducted, requirements on giving feedback, due dates for animations, but I was sort of just tossed into the dark with the instructions of just make whatever, which is really vague. Thankfully, the directors were planning to have trial meets, which could help, but you'll see this was not really the case until later in the video. And on the 25th, I had a revised story. A common trend was directors would say they would take a look at this the next day, which was nice, but they don't really end up saying anything, which was completely fine, but it had almost been 2 weeks without anyone saying anything, so I wrote a completely different story, this time based on Enderman, as a positive alternative. And again, I was promised that they would look at it for feedback the next day, but it took a week for anyone to get back to me. This happened for the next couple of weeks. Feedback was really hard to get, and when I did, I immediately updated my story until finally on June 24th, I was told I could move into layout. Working on a Minecraft story for 3 months for an animation, I kind of felt that was longer than it needed to be, especially when I was sending updated stories within 1 to 4 days from when I received feedback. I started building the ancient city for the command block with my friend Goro, credit to him. After getting consistent feedback this time, I worked on layout. One of the things I needed was access to epidemic sound for music, and I asked a director on June 28th, 2024. Was told I would receive them the next day on the 29th. Had no response, so I followed up on July 15th. Still had no reply, so I gave up on laying out with music and finally got a response an entire month later for my initial inquiry. Already working on a story based around Minecraft taking 3 months because of inactivity was demotivating, but receiving credentials for the Epidemic Sound account took an entire month. But when I posted drafts, I got no feedback. I posted these scene by scene whenever I could, and I'm realizing now I probably should have sent it all in one big draft instead of scene by scene. And that could be the reason for not receiving suggestions, but I was never really told this. I had to observe how others were posting drafts and getting feedback. There was no system in place, which makes it difficult to understand things. I posted a layout of scenes 1 to 3 on June 30th, scene 4 on July 15th, scenes 5 to 6 on July 17th, scene 1 full animation with layout of scene 2 to 8 on July 30th, a revised draft on August 12th, add a layout for scenes 9 and 10 on September 2nd, full animation for scenes 1 to 10 and layout for 11 and 12 on September 23rd. Sent half of scene 11's big finale on October 21st, and finally a full draft on November 4th. I had finished grinding animation from June to November, and during the span of 4 months, I had only 2 lines of feedback, which were general notes such as my camera was always moving, and just keep at it. Maybe I just didn't need feedback because my animation was flawless. Well, no, that was not the case. For my full draft, however, I did get more eyes on it. Let's say Director 1 posted a ton of feedback on November 5th, and I updated in a full draft 2, which I sent on November 12th. Director 2 gave feedback on the 12th itself, which was pretty nice. I sent a full draft 3 on November 18th, and then decided to move on to lighting because no one said much. I posted a ton of rendered images and got feedback right away because it was really quick, only saying for me to be careful of spotlights and to redo a hologram design. Quick thank you to Felix and Pitch for helping me out with some command block assets. I was aiming for an early 2025 release, and because no one had given me more animation or lighting feedback when I was sending stuff in, I rendered everything out frame by frame on Sheepid, did full sound design, full editing, and posted full draft 5 on February 3rd, basically ready for release. Now, because no one gave me proper feedback, I was under the belief that the animation was good, the lighting was fine, the sounds were fitting. But that wasn't the case. I was soon bombarded with feedback, more than I'd ever seen before. This goes back to the point where Squared Media has no backbone. I even had layout feedback based on pacing when I posted layout drafts the summer of 2024, 8 months ago, if it's February 2025 at this point. I didn't understand and was overwhelmed. However, I decided to press on. If this was my dream, I wouldn't give up that easily. On March 3rd, I sent full draft 6 where I got some good feedback and then started work on a thumbnail. I sent full draft 7 on April 4th and gave more lighting updates on April 10th and sent a full draft 8 on May 5th. This was where everything fell apart permanently, till today. Let's say while directors 1 to 6 have looked at my past animation drafts and have given animation feedback, which is awesome, director 7 is looking at this for the first time ever and decides the entire thing needs changing. And it wasn't just the basics either, like small clipping or foot sliding. It was going back to the roots of layout work I had posted from almost an entire year ago at this point, which is insane. Director 7 had never looked at any of my work previously and wanted me to change like 65% of the animation. I had sent layout drafts, animation drafts, rendered everything out, and when that wasn't fine, I was alright with it and went on with full draft 7 and 8. But now it was too much. To put this in scale, I had finished draft 5 on February 3rd, where I could have released the animation, but I had to redo at least 35% of the animation, not to mention that all my sound design and music for a 20-minute runtime was completely rendered useless now, and I had to delete it all since things were going to be changing. Plus all the rendered frames that I had already done. I let that go, but now I had to change 65% of the animation that I just polished, that at least 6 different directors had given time, feedback, over the past year, and it was a huge waste of time because this could have been addressed back in layout of summer 2024. But because there's absolutely no system in place, no structure in Squared Media, this was overlooked. So I reached out to an old trial director to get their experience. Let's call them Trial 1. Apparently back before BPS rebranded to Squared Media, there was a feedback loop in place because David was in charge and the others were not being super active in terms of feedback. Trial 1 said my story at Squared Media sounded like a lack of focus and conviction on the part of the leadership. The position is prestigious, but because of all the history, there are certain expectations that don't exist if you're doing your own thing. I was told to make these changes when I got the story approved a year ago, which shouldn't be happening. But again, everything I'd done was to join Squared Media, so even though I was close to falling, I pushed on and sent a new full draft 9 on June 6th, only a month after. This may not sound like much time, but I assure you I was grinding away. And, well, I got hacked. I lost everything, and I myself was reduced to atoms. I had nothing to keep me going. I just thought that the entire process of giving a story it would take 3 months again. No one commented on layout for whatever reason, and then I would just have to redo everything because one director didn't want to see it in its early stages. I don't remember why, but I posted a story draft anyway on July 8th, 2025. As expected, the story looked like it was going to take another 3 months. I sent 4 different concepts or revised drafts all in the same month. But again, directors were saying things like, it could work, or maybe try this, and I really had no solid direction to go in. But after many long months, my friends stumbled upon my files when going through some encrypted wizard stuff on my PC. I'm not really entirely sure. And I was happy. It was amazing, right? I posted a draft of what I had on November 11th, 2025, and in December I started organizing stuff for lighting. However, I'm all out. Even though I got my files back for command block, which most people I don't think really know of, I didn't really want to continue. I wasn't going to go through the same thing if I ever made it past the command block story. directors saying that they'll look at it tomorrow, but completely forgetting it till the next week or two, Square Media not having a backbone, and us trials just groping around in the dark. Something more I haven't mentioned, trial meets were promised in March of 2024, but we didn't have a single meeting till November 2025. An entire year and a half without trial meetings. Sure, we could send drafts in during director meetings every week, which I tried, but directors were always hard prioritized over trials. Directors say trials take time, but it doesn't seem more than an excuse, if I'm being honest. Furthermore, I wanted to learn. I have almost no experience with complex lighting like the latest Square Media animations have. Everything gets compared to when the bar gets higher and higher. So if I have a rendered scene that probably could have made it in 2015, compared to what's on the channel this past year, the directors will most likely tell me to improve it. Once I was told I could send a scene to a director to get lighting help so I could learn, which I did, but then I got nothing back because he forgot. Another time we decided we could go into a VC so I could improve my lighting, but it didn't happen. Square Media has no enforcement. I kind of feel like I'm playing 2B2T and I have no idea what to do. What makes it worse is that the directors seem to post whenever. For example, Director 4 has barely shown any drafts compared to what I had for Command Block. They only received 10 lines of feedback on the entire animation, which was almost 20 minutes from only one person. No one else said anything or had any feedback. And then Director 4 sent a final draft which got posted on the channel just a few hours after, I guess. It also pains me to see stories get approved in maybe a week or two compared to my 3 months because of more activity on the other side. Perhaps I'm not understanding, but the entire workplace feels very inconsistent and unfair. I can't keep up with more animations improving as time goes on from Square Media and other channels. I thought I could learn here, but all I've received was inconsistency, organizational issues, and no room to grow animation skills for a channel based on Minecraft. Which brings me to say I don't really know what to do next. I feel like saying Square Media killed my passion may be a little too much. The last time I really animated out of true passion was when I animated Songs of War's final fight, which took only 2 weeks from pre-production to uploading it. After 2024, I never really had fun with Command Block, and it just felt like a burden going back to it. It might have been different if I didn't have to redo the entire production almost entirely 2 separate times, but I'll never really know. Square Media is also bringing in new trials when they can't really keep up with the ones already here. Even the process of accepting people and doesn't really seem to have a system, and it's just whatever a few directors feel in the moment. We were also told that to become trial, you need to work your way up from animator stages, so the directors really know you. And some of us did, but others have gotten accepted when they really haven't done that and just joined the community. Again, no system, no proper rules, and it feels like I'm personally putting in a lot of more work compared to some others who have been accepted recently with the years of Songs of War animations and working as a contract animator in the past. The trial directors on the team right now do have a lot of potential though, and I just hope they don't end down the same path as this. I feel like Minecraft is another thing too. I love the game and play it often, but the type of animation Square Media makes for Minecraft aren't really in its universe. Sometimes it's a whole different story just using Minecraft assets like Starfall, Songs of War, and more. And the Minecraft-related animations that are made are really for younger audiences, which isn't a bad thing, but like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of limitations. It's hard to play with concepts like loss and tragic stuff in the current era of Square Media, when it was much easier to work to in BPS like Netherwar did. Part of me feels like the standards for Square Media holds for children Minecraft animations may be too high with how the workplace feels, although I would understand that high standard if there was a backbone and a hard system in place, which there isn't. At the end of this, I don't regret the journey. Square Media was the dream, and even though it didn't turn out the way I imagined, I'm glad to have talked with some of the people who I've looked up to. But in short, if I were to give the company one word, I think it would be unfair. because of no structure and no rules, if I'm being honest. Maybe this isn't the end of animation for me, or maybe it is. And I think that'll be answered with time. Whatever comes next, I want it to be built on something that I can finally enjoy again.